Today I'm going to talk about the importance of just freaking doing it. And when I say that, I just want to tell you a personal story. This is a video about creativity. And this is a video about being creative when it's difficult or when you don't feel like it, and how when you're struggling, it can be one of the most important things that you do. Like, literally, creativity saved my life multiple times. And I want to tell you a story about like something very near and dear to my heart. And about my relationship with stories and storytelling and writing stories. And I've always loved to write. So I was 8 years old. I started writing my first book, as, pretty much most of us, started writing our book. But I wrote this fantasy novel, about this young man whose parents got killed by a dragon, and him and his brother lived in the woods, but then his brother got killed by a bear, and then he befriends this werewolf, and he learns about how to be friends again and how to welcome other people into his life, and then he goes on a quest with him to vanquish this dragon, right? And I wrote this thing between the ages of 8 and 14, and it was, I finished it. It was about 120,000 words. And it was like so good for me to just have that creative outlet. I didn't know I had ADHD at the time. I didn't know I was neurodivergent. I didn't know I needed that space to create, but I'm really glad that I did it because it really shaped my creativity and those skills. But I tried to start so many books after that. As I got older, and then even as an adult, I knew I wanted to write, but I never could. I started so many stories and I was never able to finish any of them. I just couldn't stick to it. I could not stick to a story that I was passionate enough about. And so, fast forward to a couple of years when I was really struggling. I went through some major kind of depressive episodes in my life. I just still felt like I needed to write, and I just had zero energy to devote to this creative stuff. And you may be there. You may have been there. You might be there in the future. You might be there right now, where it's just like, I know I have these stories inside of me. I have this artwork I want to paint, or this music I want to create, or these films I want to do, and I just have zero creative energy. How could I even start to do this stuff? And I really believe in fate, and I believe in fate that is under our control, and that our destiny is ours, and that we can grab hold of it and become who we truly want to be in this world, in this universe, and that the universe will guide us to do that. Like, I really believe that, whether it's God or whether it's whatever you believe in. I really believe that, like, my life has a purpose, for example, and that yours does too. That's just a personal belief that I have, and maybe you don't believe that way, and that's totally fine. Maybe you believe that it has the purpose you give it, and that's a very empowering belief, and I love that. But I just knew I needed to write a book, and I felt over and over and over again, I need to write a book, I need to write a book. And so I tried, and I would just fail, and I would try, and I would fail, and I was just like, I cannot write a book. I just had to be honest with myself. It's impossible. It is impossible to write a book. And I knew that that was true. And so I had these two conflicting things. It was impossible to write a book, and I also needed to. And it was really tough for me. I didn't know what to do. Like, I knew both of those things were true and completely mutually exclusive. And that was a tough time. But I remember I had kind of an aversion to short stories. And I think that aversion grew out of the fact that I knew I needed to write a book. I knew that I needed to write a book. So I'm not going to waste time on a short story, because I can't publish short stories and I can't become a writer on short stories. And some people do, but it's, it was at a time when there just wasn't a lot of places to publish that or anything. And I just had the feeling, I was just asking the universe, what am I supposed to do? These two things are mutually exclusive. And I just got this impression that said, write a short story. And I was like, are you kidding me? I'm not going to write a short story. No way I'm going to write a short story. Why would I write a short story? But it was just clear as day, write a short story. So I was like, you know what, fine. I'm going to write a freaking short story. And I sat down and I wrote one. And I finished it. And I cannot describe the feeling that I had finally, after years, finishing something again. It filled me with inspiration. And then I could share it with somebody and become more inspired. I had something done, and the next day I wrote another one, and I finished something again, and I got that boost. And the next day I did another one, and the next day I did another one. And sometimes some of these stories were 10 words. It was a piece of poetry. It was a scene. Sometimes I would have no ideas, and I would go on Pinterest for inspiration and just steal somebody else's idea. I say steal ideas, borrowed ideas, right? They're like, somebody should write a story about this, or a piece of artwork that I wrote a story about, and it didn't matter. Nobody was going to see it. And that just held me like probably 100 days of writing short stories, where that's all I could do. And it felt so good to be doing something again. And I knew I wasn't writing a book, except for the fact that before long, that voice came back to me from the universe and said, good job. it's done. And I'll show you. I ended up, I'm not here to advertise this. I don't even know if this is still available on Amazon, but I wrote a book of short stories. I wrote a book. And it was just like amazing to see the fact that like this kind of thing that I was trying to get to just had a path that I couldn't see. And I had to just go one step at a time. You know what I mean? And each step was illuminated. And it was just this beautiful sort of experience that I was able to realize two things that were mutually exclusive. An impossible thing was attained by just small steps, just doing something today. And man, I can't tell you how grateful I am for that experience, because after I had practiced for 100 days, not only did I have a book of short stories, actually 3 or 4 books of short stories, I also then had the energy and the skills to write an entire book. And now I've written 6. So it was just this amazing thing that like I just needed to get back in practice, and I could practice through the short stories. But if somebody would have told me that up front, I'd be like, no, that's impossible. That's not going to work, because I'm stubborn, because I do that. And I wish I wasn't that way, but that's the way that I am. And I'm trying to work against that. And experiences like this have helped me through that. But man, let me just tell you what, it changed my life. And so like, I don't know what your short stories are. I don't know what version of whatever it is you have going on could be short stories. But if you're struggling, I promise you there is something like that out there for you. I promise you that if you just honestly reach out, you say, what is it? What can I do? Something will come along, and that there's hope, and that you'll make it, and that you can create what you are meant to create, what you feel like you want to create, what you want to bring into this world, the door in the universe that you want to open, the world that you want to introduce us all to. And I'm so excited to see whatever it is. So yeah, I just wanted to share that experience with you guys. Maybe I'll share some of these short stories with you. Maybe I'll share actually just one of the poems. There's a couple poems. I actually wrote Captain Dragonbeard's Tale, which is the pirate story in a mythologized folkloric form. And most of these stories are sort of half based on real life, and then other ones are just random ones. I can't decide between the two of them. I think I'll just read you this one. It's called Artefae, and it is a very, very, very short story written to be kind of in an Irish accent, so I'll give it an attempt. But it goes like this. I remember the first time I saw one of them. Walking down the road to town, I thought it was a normal man, but no. For though some call them good or fair folk, my first impression left me with a gut a mess and fouled, and I had not my lucky clover. No iron nails were sewn into the hem of my coat, for something in me knew 'twas not a man that stood before me, but something much more sinister. And only those unconscious premonitious feelings could convince me something was amiss. 'Twas later I realized the count of his teeth, the shape of his eyes, the movement of his mouth. While he spoke to me of greeting, they were incorrect, inhuman, and chilling. And though I hurried by, his face at times haunts the wee hours of my mornings. I do not wish to look through darkened windows at night. I would not want to wander through the woods alone again, not knowing that the stories aren't just stories. The rumors are true. There are other things out there, hiding in the shadows, preying on the frightened and the lost. They say its intelligence is artificial. Who knew technological advancements could one day make machines that look like humans? Anyway, thanks for sharing that with me. I believe in you guys so much. I know I haven't met you, but like the creative potential inside of every single human is immense. And don't forget that. I'm Levi, and this is Outlandish.